time to bring you this important message.
Yo, it's Remember the Show. Slick with the flows, where the sparring can go. Who's gonna be on, man, you never will know. Guess you better tune in, cause we live from Chicago. Belal Muhammad, that's the king of the tweets. Jason Anik looks like John, step his hands to his feet. Every Thursday, we gon' give you a treat. It's Remember the Show, hit play and repeat. And retweet, and retweet, and retweet. And retweet, it's Remember the Show, hit play and repeat.
What is up? It is episode 49 of Remember the Show, the first episode without Remember the Name. Belal Muhammad, 2 days away from the biggest fight of his life. I'm jumping out of my seat. We're here to get you hyped. I'm joined by our legendary director, Cody Merrow. Y'all know him, multi-talented. And Darnel, Mystic Black MMA. You most know on Instagram. This kid's very talented. I've been a fan of yours for a long time. Thank you for being with us. Gentlemen, you guys are the experts. I can't wait to get into. We'll definitely get into Belal. Before we do, we'll talk about UFC 269 last weekend. But before we get to that, anything you guys are chomping on that you want to get off your tongues before we get into some real meat?
Just want to tell you guys, first of all, thank you for having me here, Belal. I promise I'm going to do this as best as I can before you get this W on Saturday, which we will talk about right here on Remember the Show. And that song gets better every single time that I hear it, I swear.
Well, question. So, Darnell, who do you think sings that? Is that Belal?
It sounds like, I was going to ask you that question. Is it Belal? Because it sounded exactly like him.
No, it's not Belal.
You know who it is?
No,
he's on screen. It's not.
That's
he's
me.
on screen.
That's me.
No, that is the director, Cody.
Yeah,
Merrow.
I did that like 15 minutes before the first show because we didn't have an intro, and I was just like, "Well,
right,
gotta lay it down."
I like it more every time too, and I think you pronounced his name pretty close to correctly back in the day. It was Belal, which was good. Anyway,
I just got flow.
Well, thank you guys for being with us. You know, we'll get to Belal. It's funny. John, my brother John, talks about Kenny Florian all the time, and it's going to be the same shit with me talking about Belal. You can be sure. I can't wait. But anyway, so by the way, I did want to say one thing before we get into UFC 269, and this has kind of random, but it's like if I'm Deron Williams, I'm not getting in the ring with Frank Gore. Do you agree with that? I didn't even look at what the line is. Frank Gore. I mean, that guy works his ass. I mean, forget it. Sorry, I had to mention that.
It's funny. He's actually the underdog in that fight. And if you watch when everybody watched the hitting of the pass today, yesterday, Frank Gore was hitting those things and it was just scary. And Deron Williams was, of course, he's not showing too much. I know he's been training down there at Fortis MMA for a good amount of time. He looked really technical. And I feel like maybe there's something that the odds makers know that we don't, because Deron, I think, is a pretty big favorite over Frank Gore.
Yeah, and I appreciate that insight. And certainly he's got height, and certainly both athletic guys. Cody, any thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, he's part owner with Fortis MMA. I just feel like the more, like when Frank Gore, he's like a year or two out of the league, isn't it? And his son's in college. Like, I mean, how many years has he really been watching MMA, let alone training? Like, Deron Williams has been, I'm pretty sure it's Deron, but like, he's been watching MMA for like 10 years. I'm pretty sure he's like a majority investor, not majority, but he's a large investor in Fortis MMA. So, hey, don't sleep on him.
No, and I'm probably wrong. I just, a beast NFL running back. And Deron Williams, to be honest, he, in his NBA career, and I hate to knock him, I don't know anything, but he was sort of, he underachieved a little bit, and that could have been due to injury, whatever it is. But Frank Gore's an absolute beast. It's not going to surprise me anything that dude does. Anyway,
yeah, he's at that he's at that same gym as who's the guy, the 135er who just won that boxing championship against Teofimo Lopez, George, forgetting his last name.
Got the wrong guy here for that.
No, I don't remember, but yes, like Kambosos. There you go, George Kambosos, who just won that all four of those titles. Frank Gore's in that same gym, so he might get a little bit of that energy from him and come on and knock out Deron Williams. So we'll see. That's going to be exciting.
So speaking of exciting, last weekend's two title fights were pretty exciting. So I got to begin with Juliana Pena, the new bantamweight champion. So I was thinking about her today, and the word that came into my head, I hate to say it, but it was ultimate. Like, she really, to me, is the ultimate fighter. Talented, tough as hell, smart, athletic, and just willing to die in there. What a night for her. So happy for her. Darnell, give me your thoughts on the new champ.
My God, as we were chit-chatting before this, something just felt a little different about this week and Amanda going against Juliana. I know Juliana was a huge underdog, but hey, it's MMA. Anything can happen. Juliana was speaking about this for a long time. I never seen somebody want a title match more ever and talk bad about Amanda Nunes, who's probably one of the nicest people you'll meet in MMA. But she did everything she could to get in there, and she proved every single person wrong, that she can do that and she can win that title, and she didn't back down. And I was having a conversation with my friends. I'm like, listen, if Amanda can't finish her in that first round, Juliana Pena is known for getting stronger as the rounds go by. As she did that with Sarah McMahon, she finished her in the third round. In the second round with Amanda Nunes, Juliana Pena wasn't even breathing hard. She was looking over and she was ready to get there in that second round. And Amanda lost a little bit of gas there, and some people were surprised. Oh, Amanda Nunes, how did she get tired so fast? Listen, Amanda Nunes is not a person who's known for having the best gas tank. She gassed against Valentina before. She gassed against Kat Zingano before. She had an issue with Jermaine Duronami as he got to the third, fourth, and fifth round. So this is nothing that's unusual. But Juliana Pena went in there and she finished her, and she didn't even have to put the hooks in. Like Amanda was completely out of it at that point. I don't even think she had her arm underneath her neck. Amanda tapped pretty fast.
Cody?
I mean, I was just thinking after that fight, like the real winner was Kayla Harrison, because she walked into that fight with one possible UFC opponent and she walked out with two possible UFC opponents. So, I mean, I think that fight only gets bigger as like the time goes on, and Amanda and Kayla kind of like have a crash course at 145. But, you know, now Juliana Pena's in the mix. Now the rematch is huge. What if, you know, that rematch, maybe it's in Brazil on the May 7th card that they just announced, you know, stack that card. She, you know, convinced Pena to go down there because she's getting the pay-per-view points, you know, something that I think would be huge. And someone else that I wanted to get like their opinion on this, guys, one and only Dave Fretz. Dave, how you doing, my friend?
What's happening, guys? Good to see you.
You too. Welcome. Yeah, the one and only.
Thank you very much. I'm doing good. Good to be here. And I know you were talking about Juliana and Amanda right before I came in. So Cody, is that what you were asking about? My opinion on that?
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. I've worked with Juliana a little bit, and so I should have been a little more sort of in her corner as that kicked off. But one of the first things I did right before that fight, I tweeted out a poster that I had made of Amanda a little bit ago, and I said something like, you know, I just can't see anybody beating Amanda Nunes. So it's one of my takes that just really didn't age well. But you know what? Juliana Pena has got a dog in her that is hard to suppress. And we've seen a couple times, like with Amanda, when it gets long and it goes the distance, there's a little bit of a cardio issue there if she doesn't flatten her opponent right away. And so it's not surprising. You know, I think everybody was a little thrown off from the Pena-Durandamy fight. And so people just assumed, that nobody was thinking, oh, she's had a bad night. So it just was such a shock to everybody. I mean, everybody was shocked, let's face it, but this certainly makes things really, really interesting now. I am so curious to see. I mean, she could fight Amanda again. She could fight Valentina Shevchenko. You know, there's any number of fights that are really interesting. And she can't be she's a live dog now. I mean, you have to put respect on her name. It's going to be really fascinating now to see what happens, because as much as it's fun to watch Amanda do what she's done, it makes things a lot more exciting now. So I'm really looking forward to what's next.
I love it. So I got to say, in terms of me watching Amanda, now take nothing away from Juliana, but for me watching Amanda, I got to say, I mean, there are just moments that I think about. You know, I said to John, I was like, you know, imagine if her coaches could have called a timeout after 30 seconds, right? And just been like, yo, just do some leg kicks and jabs and just relax for a little bit. Right. And she might win the fight. And I know I understand it. So to me, you know, Kenny Florian put it very well, just how emotional Amanda was. And so to me, you know, if it's going to be a street fight, give me Juliana's not going to be plus 640 in a street fight with Amanda Nunes. So I thought there were some opportunities for Amanda that might have been lost, not take anything away from Juliana. I said, and Cody, I've said this many times to you, but for Darnell and Dave, I mean, I remember vividly, my wife and I, for whatever reason, were really engaged in the Juliana Pena Ultimate Fighter show, and we thought she could beat Ronda. She was the one to beat Ronda. So this, to me, sort of follows that pattern a little bit.
Well, it's funny you say that. That's the last time I watched The Ultimate Fighter. But I think actually it was more impressive to me on this card, the fact that your boy Dominick Cruz, I'm sorry to jump topics like this,
No, I'm
Jay,
glad you did.
Your boy went in, lost the first round convincingly, got knocked down, fought back, was given every chance. There was no nonsense in that fight. And he fought back and won the next 2 rounds handedly. Took home a bonus. Darnell, what did you think of Dominick Cruz's kind of comeback victory there? And then, Jay, I want to get your thoughts as well as we go clockwise.
Love it.
I think when Dominick Cruz was in there and he got knocked out in that first round, he probably sat in that corner, looked over at DC. He's like, there's no way I'm going to lose this fight in front of you. There's absolutely no way I'm going to lose this fight in front of you. As I'm doing this for you. I did my homework. I know what Pedro Munoz does. I'm going to adjust, and that's what's going to happen. And that's exactly what he did. It was. I don't even want to say vintage Dominick Cruz, because this is a kind of a new version of him, because he's having to deal with these guys who have learned a lot coming up. Like Pedro Munoz is a younger guy. He definitely has different tricks that Dominick Cruz has not seen in the older guys that he's fought. But this just sets this up for so many good matchups in that bantamweight division, which I feel is the best division in the UFC right now, because anybody at any given point in time can be champion in that top 10 of that division.
Yeah.
That's a great point, and as you brought up the bantamweight division, I thought about the welterweight, but I'm not sure the same sentiment is true about anybody necessarily beating anybody. So that's a good point. So in terms of Dom, I want to say, and certainly didn't get painted in the best light on the mic, in the mid-weight cut. But what I've always, having spent some time with him closely, that's been my takeaway is just how positive he is, injury after injury. And there's not a conversation you ever have with Dominick Cruz that isn't positive, where you're not learning, where there's, so his focus, I've spent so much time with him in times where he was not fighting because he was injured and he was so off the radar. So for me to see him achieve this and be really part of the conversation again after losing to Cejudo, I'm thrilled.
Yeah. I think actually that performance by Dom is probably one of the more impressive to me over this past year. Because you're so used to seeing guys when they get into sort of and I don't want to say the twilight of his career, but I mean, he's been around for so long. I mean, been watching him since WEC days, and, remember him, the way he tore it up. But you see guys start to get knocked out, and then you're used to it just to continue to happen over and over and over again. And so, Darnell, I got to totally agree with what you said there, is that there's a refinement in the way he's fighting now, and it's super impressive because it's very intelligent. I mean, he's always moved really well, but his defense this fight, after he got knocked down, what he was able to do both defensively with his movement and then offensively to generate that kind of offense, it's super impressive. It was really, really a great performance.
Good stuff.
Yeah, and I definitely want to see that Dominick Cruz and Jose Aldo matchup happen next year, because that's going to be the WEC people's main event on whatever card they want to do that on. Maybe even in Brazil, who knows?
Oh, and for Dom to get there off Jose doing what he did is even better. That's a fight. If Dom wins that fight, really.
That's so tough though, because then you're just killing 2 great draws. Like, why have Cruz and Aldo fight each other when Aldo versus Dumpster is going to do just as well as versus Cruz? Whereas same thing with Cruz, him against anything is going to be great. So that's very tough decisions there at bantamweight.
Division's insane.
Cruz fighting like that, to be honest, and I know nobody's really talking about it, but it would be really interesting to see a rematch with Cruz and Dillashaw, the way he fought like that. That would be a fun fight, actually.
Absolutely. So we got to get to Charles Oliveira, don't we? It felt like for me in a weird way that they should have said and new. I know that sounds crazy, but it's like Dustin Poirier coming off 2 huge wins, set 2 enormous paydays, enormous events, that it felt like, it's just weird to see him lose. But for Oliveira, for this to be his first title defense against a legend like this, former interim champ, and then to do it in the fashion he did, this weighs heavy. Cody, I see you shaking your head. Fire away.
I mean, Charles Oliveira, you know, like I just kept badgering John the whole week. I'm like, give me one Oliveira. Like, just say it
You want me
right
to
from
roll
you
the
just
R a little
one
bit?
time. Just
Oliveira.
Charles Oliveira from the favela. Come on. Like, but I just love Charles, like his whole energy now. Like I was one of the people going into the fight where I was like, all right, like show it to me again. Like the Chandler, I was in the crowd with the Chandler fight, and I thought, you know, with a different ref, Chandler could be the champ, but that's not what happened. Charles came back in the second round. He is the champion. He comes into the second one. Everyone's questioning his heart. Justin Gaethje, you know, Dustin Poirier obviously was questioning it as well. Us as the fans were questioning it. And what does he do? He goes in there and just absolutely dogs Dustin. Like there was only a couple moments there early where Dustin really felt like he was getting the pocket exchanges on him. And then, you know, to sit in the full guard for most of the first round, which a lot of people obviously were talking about, a lot of risk versus reward there as far as trying to get out of that situation, but gives up the first round, comes into the second one, and then Charles kind of just takes over. His length, his lankiness, the ability on the ground to kind of just like envelop. Like I truly think that he kind of grabbed the boogeyman spirit from Tony Ferguson, and now he's the boogeyman of the 155-pound division. But there's so many good matchups. Conor McGregor injected himself, of course. Like, who's not going to take that payday? There's a Chandler fight rematch down the road if Chandler can win. Gaethje fight is obviously next. You know, do you bring that to Rio? Is that something Gaethje's interested in? There's so many good matchups at 155 just going off of that. Darnell, I see you shaking your head. What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, a couple different things coming off that fight. A lot of people were talking about Conor doesn't deserve a championship fight. I don't even think about it in that sense. I think Charles Oliveira deserves a payday because I'm all about the fighters getting paid. And, you know, if he fights Conor McGregor, he is going to get paid. And do I think it'd be a good matchup for Conor McGregor? Probably not, but I want to see my man Charles get paid. But at the same time, Dustin Poirier made some comments saying that he doesn't know if he can make that cut anymore to 155. He said it was pretty hard during the camp, being hungry while he's in there doing cardio, a combination of those different things, which is so crazy to hear because, you know, a guy like Colby Covington walks around lighter than Dustin Poirier walks around. Can Dustin Poirier have you know, a good career at 170? Because he's only 32 years old. He's still got some time on him. But we got Eagle FC with their 165-pound division. Maybe Dustin Poirier goes over there. Maybe Khabib is paying this guy some big money. That's very interesting to see after that fight.
Dave, what do you think of the main event Saturday night?
Yeah, you know what? To me, watching that, I have to say up front that I picked Dustin. I did pick Dustin in that.
Same.
I thought after what happened with Khabib that we were going to see a real unstoppable force in terms of his defensive wrestling and stopping the takedowns. Because I knew, I mean, you kind of knew that Oliveira was going to try and take it there. But after watching Mr. Olives there, man, I think that dude just set himself apart of the rest of the division. I have a really hard time, and I know I just said this about Amanda, but you have a hard time seeing somebody. His game is so complete. What he's done since the first half of his run in his UFC career until now, talk about refinement. I mean, he's a complete package. And thinking about Gaethje coming in, I know that Gaethje's been more patient. We've seen in the last little bit, but you think about the war that was Dustin Poirier and Gaethje there. I think that, I mean, MMA math maybe doesn't work well, but man, I think Oliveira really, really takes Gaethje apart as well too. I just see his game as so complete at this point.
That's a great point. I will say, I was going to say if Gaethje has Trevor Whitman in his corner, I still think he's got a great shot. Go ahead, Darnell.
Interesting.
Can I ask you guys a question? Do you think that this will entice Khabib to maybe want to make a comeback? You know, they keep saying that just like at welterweight, when a guy gets so dominant, you want to see somebody who was so dominant in that division come back. You think Khabib will make that, or he's pretty much done?
He's gone. He's with Eagle FC now too. I mean, he's really doing his own thing, and I think he sits on that 29-0 legacy. I think he stays undefeated and leaves that alone. He seems like, of anybody we've seen in the last decade in the UFC, to really not be fazed by what people say about him. And he has Makhachev now in there. Islam is sort of taking the reins, and I don't think he would step back in and take the shine away from him, from his fighter like that. So
he's a big boss now.
Yep.
Speaking of the big boss, in the upper right corner, it's Belal. Remember the name Muhammad. Let's go. Fuck, I cannot wait. I was banging on the desk last week, just all fired up, and the show ended, and I walked out, and my wife's like, "Wow, I heard you banging on the desk." She's like, "Have you ever met Belal?" And I was like, "No, I've never met the guy." Right. But hey, 48 episodes. We got to know each other. It's pretty funny. I'm all in either way.
Yes.
We certainly have a relationship, but no, never. I've never met Cody. So it's fun. John and Cody just met a couple months ago.
Yeah, I feel like I met you.
Same shit. I get it.
It's really not. It's really not. But like before meeting one versus the other, like I would have said that, but it's completely different. It's like a different voice entirely.
But it is, yeah, different voice, but same voice, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, so before we get to what should be the main event is a 5-rounder with Muhammad Thompson, but it's not. I do love it when the main event is a heavyweight tilt. So UFC Fight Night 199. And Darnell's a Patriots fan too. I like that number 199. Thomas Brady Jr. pick number 199 in the 2000 draft. I like that number for Belal, 199. Anyway, we'll talk about the main event first. John and I were both surprised that the Black Beast is the underdog here to Chris Daukaus. Daukaus undefeated in the UFC, 4-0. I guess we're going to start with Darnell because Darnell and I were going to host this show before Belal's fight, and we are here. So I'm going to start with you, Darnell. The Black Beast is a scary dude, and I saw, seeing those 2 chin shots on Curtis Blades on the ground a few times this week. I saw that too many times. But anyway, I'll shut up. Talk to me about the main event. Couple of heavyweights with a lot at stake.
Couple heavyweights. One, Chris Daukaus from that Philly area. Shout out to Paul Felder and them over there. Derek Lewis coming off that interim heavyweight title fight that he had in Houston, which I felt that he had a lot of pressure on himself being an event in his hometown. But him being an underdog in this fight is very weird to me because Chris Daukaus, as good as he is, as impressive as he's looked, 3 performances of the night bonuses his past 3 fights, he has not faced this level of competition in Derek Lewis. He is getting very lucky that he gets to fight Derek Lewis because Derek Lewis is a guy who doesn't say no to fights. Even though Derek Lewis is ranked number 3, Daukaus is ranked number 7, which he got the fight. I think it was Shamil. I can't say his last name. If John was here, he probably can say the last name better than I. There you go. He fought him and
I was at that fight. That was my first UFC fight ever. Actually, was Lewis versus Abdurakhimov, because I remember there was like 10 decisions on the card, but Francis Ngannou pulled a Kimura on somebody trying to rip his arm off, learned a Kimura in the back. Like, dude didn't even know what MMA was. Dude's like, yeah, try this with his arms. Okay. Goes in, waxes some dude's chicken arm. Like, crazy. Abdurakhimov, go ahead.
So I feel that this fight right here is, I know they want John Jones to fight Stipe, but this is the Stipe Miocic sweepstakes right here. Any one of these guys win, They can fight Stipe next. We might have police officer versus firefighter in a main event sometime next year. That might happen. Or Derek Lewis, who's always said he wants to fight Stipe Miocic, and I can put him right back into that title hunt. So I don't think Derek Lewis being an underdog here is great, but I think if you're putting money on somebody, drop a lot of money on Derek Lewis. Black Beast, knockout whenever he wants.
I hear you. And, whether this evolves into picks or not, you can be sure I'm not going to ask you to pick against Belal or pick that fight unless you want to. But Dave, who are you leaning toward in the main event?
It's funny. I was really interested to hear you guys talk this because I actually do have I was actually picking Chris in this one. Now, mind you, Darnell's right. Like, he hasn't faced this level of competition. And I mean, there's no truer story of one punch power when it comes to this matchup. And I mean, Derek Lewis can take out anybody even if he kind of whiffs on a punch. I mean, if it hits just right or Daukaus doesn't see it coming, it's game over. But I just think technically that's where the difference is in this. And even though Daukaus is only 4-0 and he's relatively young in his career at this point, I just think technically he's a little more sound than Derek Lewis is. I question whether we're going to see really hungry desire out of Derek Lewis coming off this last fight, off the loss like that, or if he may be a little bit gun shy. Because, I mean, it was that last fight against Cyril Gane was really difficult to watch. I love Derek Lewis. I think he's fantastic. I think he's great for the promotion. I think he's fun on social media. He's okay. You know, I'm always seeing his stuff scroll by. I love it. It's hilarious. But I think that this is a really interesting technical matchup at this. That being said, I mean, Darnell, you're also right. Like, that's very tempting to put money. I'm not often betting on a fight, but Derek Lewis as an underdog in this, with such a young in his career, Daukaus, that's tempting to put a little bit of money on that. But I think if I had to pick, I would pick Daukaus actually in this one.
Cody, you betting the main event?
I mean, I'm not really going to bet it per se, but I mean, dark horse Daukaus. How can you not? How can you not go with dark horse Daukaus? I mean, and I'm looking at the stats right now. I mean, both of these fighters are in the top 10 when it comes to knockdowns landed in the UFC heavyweight division among active fighters. So Andrei Arlovsky's number 1 with 10. Derek Lewis is tied for 4th with 7. Chris Daukaus is this one below with 6.
Yeah.
So I was trying to look at some of the striking defense versus striking offense, but it doesn't really matter with Derek Lewis. He could be 1% of his striking, 1 for 100, and that punch could put you out, and it wouldn't fucking matter. So I think a huge issue going into this fight, though, that is completely outside of the cage, the Philadelphia Police Department. What the hell are you doing? So I don't know if you saw this, Jay. I know you don't follow it as closely as we do, but so you don't have no idea about this?
Who, me?
Yeah, have you seen this?
I'm a working man. What I should know. Talk to me.
All right. So Chris Daukaus requested a 6-month leave of absence. He was going to use all of his accrued vacation time and take 6 months off from the police station and say, I'm going to focus on MMA, and then I'm going to come back and reassess, right? And the police department's like, nah, we're good. Like, we're just going to throw away your tenure. Your tenure and like, peace, you're done. So he was like, all right, I resign. Like, he's like, the first day off was December 1st. And he's like, it's been awesome. He's like, I sit at home with my kid and I play with him, and then I go beat up my brother for like an hour and a half a day. So it's pretty great. So I think the biggest loser in this is the Philadelphia Police Department. I mean, the boys in blue are missing out on a big fighter there.
I hear you.
They should have kept him.
I hear you.
But they can keep the cheesesteaks, man.
Boston would never treat you like that.
I know. Right? We'll take you, Chris. Chris, we'll take you. Come to Boston.
So who are you? Did you pick? You're picking Daukaus, yeah. Okay, so should we? I mean, it's all going to be shifted to Belal, and you guys are going to be telling me to just be quiet. So we could, if you guys want to touch on Amanda Lemos, Angela Hill. Kraus picked Angela Hill on the Anik and Florian podcast reluctantly. Oh, is this live? That line's been moving a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, smart money coming in on Belal. I hope he's not watching. He wants nothing to do with this line. Oh, he's cutting weight right now, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to Belal yet. So anyway, did anyone think Angela Hill has a shot to upset Amanda Lemos? Amanda Lemos has a lot of steam right now. But Angela Hill is a veteran, a lot of experience. Anyone think Angela Hill has a shot?
I mean, Angela Hill she always has a shot, because she's tough in there. She takes fights on short notice. I think she took this on short notice, right? She's replacing somebody else, right?
Yep.
She's been trying to work that ground game. She's definitely a fighter, but I don't know. I think this one is just too tough. Amanda Lemos is on a different kind of a run and level right now. Not to say I hate saying that, but she is.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, Lemos 4 finishes in her UFC fights, and Angela Hill, she is always in the fight because usually she lasts the 15 minutes. So if this fight doesn't go 15 minutes, I really don't see a chance for Angela Hill. Lemos, I think, is just too much. Like, she's possibly a top 1, top 2 contender. I don't think that's Angela Hill's trajectory right now. So I think that's just tough matchmaking, but got to go with Lemos here.
Yep.
So I'm real interested to hear all you guys talk about the co-main event between Belal, remember the name, Muhammad, and Stephen Wonderboy Thompson.
Main event. People's main event. I'm turning the TV off after this fight. So
well, I'm
nothing else to watch.
Yeah, exactly. Well, so I expect Belal to do what he needs to do to win the fight and have his hand raised. So I'm going to leave it at that. Dave, we're going to start with you at the top. You say what you want or what you don't. It's a fascinating co-main event.
I love this. And actually, to be really honest, I really like this matchup for Belal. I think, especially coming off of Wonderboy's last fight, I think we saw the roadmap to beating him. Belal's cardio is his biggest. He has to have in-your-face pressure. He needs to work against the cage. It's a lot of dirty boxing and a lot of wrestling, and not letting Wonderboy get away from him. No distance in this fight. And I just think if he can keep that pedal to the metal the whole fight, he has a really good chance in this. And this could be, I'm calling it right now, this is sort of his breakout into the upper echelon of this division. I think this is a wonderful opportunity and a very winnable fight for Belal. I'm picking Belal for this. If he can keep Wonderboy pressured against the cage and keep in with that dirty boxing, the wrestling, it's his fight.
Let's go. Darnell, talk to me.
I know I'm on this gentleman right here show.
Right there.
He's my guy. He's my guy. I talk to him all the time. You always message each other back and forth. And I think this is such a great fight for him because Belal is a guy who is like Kamaru Usman. They may not be the best in every single one of those categories, but they can put it together very well. And I feel like this is where it's going to shine the most against a guy like Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. Belal has been in there when Anthony Pettis had to fight Stephen Thompson. Tyron Woodley twice when he had to fight Stephen Thompson. He was there in that gym at Rufus Sport watching these guys, getting good looks to see how Stephen Thompson is. And all three of those guys beat Stephen Thompson. I feel like that's going to help a lot. Him getting different looks, training now with Eric Nixick down there. And at Extreme Couture, it's going to help him so much. Not going to give him distance. I think Belal is going to go in there and beat him by unanimous decision. People are going to be very surprised, but this is where Wonder Boy becomes Wonder Man. But when I say Wonder Man, I mean because his age is going to show a lot.
Yes.
I like it. So, Cody, I know you're behind the scenes a lot, but nobody breaks down fights quite like you. You are a talented kid. Talk to me.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you're looking for a technical fight analysis, I think the cage size needs to come into factor. It's 30% smaller. Yeah. I think obviously Belal's route to victory is to do a lot of dirty boxing, a lot of pressing against the cage, a lot of clinch work. I think obviously Stephen Thompson's length does come into play in a lot of those outside scenarios when you're in, I'm not sure exactly how PFL put it, when you're in the red area versus the green area. So I think being on the outside really does not benefit Stephen Wonderboy Thompson in this fight because of the cage size, because you're only talking about a couple feet of distance there, as Dave alluded to or spoke about in depth. Belal's cardio is going to be a huge factor, being able to press on the gas, being able to shoot the takedowns. I think he's had fights where he's had, 17, 18, 19 takedowns. You just relentless with the takedowns. And as Darnell said, I think he put it perfectly. There's been 6 Karate Kid movies, right? They've never made a Karate Man movie. That's all I'm saying. Once he becomes the Karate Man, he's not going to have anything for Belal. So I do think the Father Time narrative can kind of get lazy, and I don't think it's necessarily going to be like, oh wow, Wonderboy fell off. I think it's that his ability to fight off his largest weakness is going to diminish the first thing over time. He's going to be a striker at a high level for a very long time, but is he going to be able to be a defensive wrestler, defensive clinch fighter for a very long time? I don't think so. I think something's got to give. Belal, that's our boy, baby. He's going to come into his own top 5 welterweight in the world. Anyone can get it. Anyone can
Wonderboy signed a new contract, right? A couple days ago, signed a contract. That's all right. That's all right. So I'm going to take that 5. Let's go, Bully. Bully, if you're out there watching, let's go.
When you get bullied at UFC Vegas 45, this contract's null and void. So
that's right. And Belal's been way more active than Stephen Wonderboy Thompson as well, too. I think Stephen has fought once or twice a year, maybe in the past couple of years. Belal's about to be on a 2-year winning streak. Since 2019, has lost a fight. So, and we're not counting that eye poking Leon Edwards, because Belal needs that fight back. I hope he gets that fight back, but
loud and clear. And that little bit of octagon time with Leon Edwards, I think will serve him well in Wonderboy. Leon Edwards, certainly a high level striker.
Yes.
Well, boys, Darnell, Dave, Cody, appreciate you guys being with us. Can't wait for Saturday night, last fight card of the year. Certainly going to be a merrier Christmas for some fighters than others, but great to have you all. Belal, let's go, brother. We're here for you. Let's go, Belal Muhammad. Saturday night. Get it done.
Peace.